Stay with us. Coming up next, our exclusive one-on-one interview with Secretary of State Condoleeza Rice. That's up next, right here on the Pentagon Channel.
Okay, well, thank you both for joining me today here at Camp Pendleton. I'd like to first start off with a quick impression of what you saw today. What was your impression of the demonstration?
Well, first of all, I am so proud, and Americans are so proud of these Marines and our men and women in uniform around the world. And I think that if Americans could see how well trained these people are, how they're taking into account so many different circumstances, to understand a lot better what people are really facing in Iraq. But I thought it was a tremendous demonstration of skill.
Well, the Marines and sailors were happy to see you. What was your impression today?
Yeah, well, I certainly found them very professional. There's no question of that. The training programs they were going through were impressive. They have to deal with a difficult urban environment in parts of Iraq, and they are prepared for that environment. And I think one of the other aspects of it that people need to know is this, that they risk their lives more than they need in order to preserve the lives of Iraqis. They have a lot of sensitivity for human rights, and that isn't always well understood. But I was impressed with the, if you like, compassion that they show in their training.
Good. Oh, I'd like to ask both of you, what's your nation's commitment to the global war on terror, what it's meant to our nation's relationships together? Can you go into that?
Well, there's nothing like nothing like a friend when you are facing danger and when you have to defend freedom, and there's no better friend than Australia in that fight. Maybe people don't know this, but Prime Minister Howard, the Australian Prime Minister, was actually in the United States on September 11th. He made certain that Australia was there for the United States. One of the things that Alexander passed on to Mrs. Reagan at the Reagan Library today was a declaration that, in fact, called into force the treaty that we have with Australia, so that an attack upon one is an attack upon all. So when times are tough and when you're facing danger, as America has been facing since September 11th, and in fact as Australians and other free people have been facing, it's really good to have a friend, and Australia's a terrific friend.
Last week, President Bush nominated Lieutenant General Douglas Lute to coordinate efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan to work with the State Department, with the Department of Defense. How will this improve the efforts there and back here?
Well, I think that, and I know General Lute very well, and he is someone who has a lot of experience, and what he will do is he will make sure that whatever General Petraeus, whatever Ryan Crocker, our ambassador, needs, that they're getting it from Washington, that the bureaucracy's not getting in the way, that people are really fully mobilized to get whatever we need to the field. Because this is a national effort. This isn't just an effort by the armed forces, although they are bearing, of course, a great cost and great sacrifice. But everybody has to be in this fight. We have diplomats on the front lines who are being mortared every day in the Green Zone, and we want everyone to work together. General Lute will make certain that our efforts are coordinated, and I'm very much looking forward to working with him.
And that work from the State Department will be more of a primary goal to work together?
Well, we are working together. I think one of the things that's maybe not well understood is the degree to which, for instance, in the provincial reconstruction teams that we have in Iraq or in Afghanistan, we actually have American Foreign Service officers and civil servants embedded with combat brigade teams out in places like Al Anbar or in some of the toughest parts of Baghdad, because the war that we're fighting this time is one that can't be won by military force alone. We need to do the security work, but then you have to be able to follow on with efforts to help the Iraqis economically, to help them politically. And so our men and women in uniform, our diplomats, our civilians are there together fighting this war, and General Lute's going to help us to coordinate those efforts, but we're proud to serve alongside the men and women of the American Armed Forces.
And many people may not know that those Foreign Service officers are there working with the troops. Finally, what would you tell the Marines and sailors that didn't get to see you today? What would you like to tell them about your visit to Camp Pendleton?
I'd like to thank them for the sacrifices they're making in the cause of freedom, that they might hear those words from time to time from American leaders, and so they should. But I'd like them to know that around the world there are foreigners who thank them as well. Without the sacrifices of American Marines and the American military, more generally, the world would be a much more dangerous place than it is. And it's tough for them. They leave their families and their friends, their home environment, go to Iraq and Afghanistan, difficult places. Some of them have not returned. So these are enormous sacrifices, and we in Australia would like to thank them.
And I'd like to say that the American people support and appreciate and tremendously admire what is being done here and what's being done by our men and women in uniform around the world. And I know that there are a lot of debates going on in Washington. It only befits a great democracy that we can debate and debate openly. But I don't hear people anywhere who don't send their very great prayers, respect, admiration to our men and women in uniform. The sacrifice, those who've not come back, but also knowing that the defense of freedom is the defense of America's security, and that each and every American owes a great debt to the people who are doing what we've seen these wonderful Marines and sailors do here at Pendleton.
And so I know you've seen them up close and personal firsthand. What will you take back to Washington or back to Australia with you? What will you remember most or be able to tell people?
Oh, I'll be able to say that so many of the Marines here, the sailors looked me in the eye and said, I'm proud to do my duty. And I looked them in the eye and said, we're proud of what you're doing. But the morale and the strength and the devotion to country is something that I always take away when I have a chance to meet with these wonderful young people.
Well, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add, Madam Secretary, about your visit?
No, I think just it's been a wonderful visit, and the command here and everybody who greeted us here has just been wonderful. I'm really glad we came, and I'm glad I could bring my good friend, the Foreign Minister of Australia, with me.
It's been great to be here, incredibly interesting for us. I've obviously been to many an Australian military base and seen our soldiers training there. I was pleased to meet a couple of Australians who are here with the US Marines, and they're having a wonderful time. One of them has been twice to Iraq with the Marines, and another is about to go in January, and they say they've fitted in very well. They've made a lot of friends here, and that's important as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.